Good news has come out today as the timeline for Scottie Barnes' recovery has been revealed, as the wrist injury he sustained against the Milwaukee Bucks doesn't seem like it'll keep him out for a very long time. So we'll discuss that, as well as Fred VanVleet making some interesting comments regarding the Toronto Raptors home court, as well as a Pistons blog making a pretty controversial trade involving OG Anunoby going to Detroit that has a lot of Toronto Raptors fans debating online, and a division rival could potentially lose their star following some cryptic comments made by one of their top dudes. So lots of stuff to break down, but before we do, we have an exciting announcement, as Queensway Automotive Group is now a partner with the Raptors Digest, and they're partnering with a lot of Toronto creators, sports creators, as they're just a group of guys that are in love with the Toronto sports teams. There are a couple of second generation, third generation car guys, in the Toronto area, and Queensway Automotive Group really has anything you want in regards to cars, right? Used cars, new cars, right? SUVs, trucks, fancy cars, whatever you're looking for, Queensway Automotive has your back. And they're launching this campaign with a lot of Toronto creators. They're really supporting the community that we have online here, including the Leafs and the Jays Digest. So, shout out to Queensway Automotive Group. They're a great group of guys over there. If you're interested in anything regarding anything regarding cars, check out the link down below that we have down in the description, and check out the inventory that they have, or any parts you're looking for. You can use that link down below to check out what they have. So shout out to Queensway Automotive Group. We're really excited about this partnership, but let's get into the news, as the first thing that we're breaking down is Scottie Barnes' injury timeline revealed. Now, when Scottie Barnes, with how this season has certainly been a roller coaster, and obviously every team deals with injuries, but the Raptors aren't really built to deal with any injuries to their top six guys. I mean, we saw it against the Milwaukee Bucks, and I was excited about the Will Barton acquisition. I still think he can be a solid player for this team at some point. Maybe not as a backup point guard, but more as a bucket getter. We'll obviously need to start hitting some shots, but when the Raptors lose some of their top six players, right, we're pretty thin roster now at this point. Obviously, Precious and Chris Boucher have also been solid players, but inconsistent in their own rights. But Scottie Barnes, we need him in the lineup, especially as we close out this season with how jam-packed the Eastern Conference is. And we got some good news regarding Scottie Barnes, as Josh Lundberg came out and reported that Scottie Barnes did not practice today, but Nick Nurse came out and said that the MRI on Barnes' injured wrist came back clean, but it's still very sore. He'll have some more testing done today, but for now, he is day-to-day, likely questionable for tomorrow's game against the Indiana Pacers. So, Scottie Barnes is right now day-to-day, which is probably the best kind of news when you see wrist injury like that. Obviously, as we reported on yesterday's video, it wasn't fractured, so that would have been a minimum of 6 weeks, but we have seen wrist injuries, like OG. I'm not sure if his was actually fractured or not, but he was out for upwards of a month, right, with his wrist injury there, and the Raptors, frankly, just couldn't, I don't think would be able to sustain Scottie Barnes being out for a very long period of time, especially with the tough matchups we have to close out this year. So the fact that Scottie Barnes is likely going to be back, hopefully he'll be back for the game against Indiana Pacers tomorrow night, but the fact that he'll likely be back soon is a big plus for this Toronto Raptors team, as we really need him to return. Now, we don't want to push through something with Scottie Barnes' wrist injury. I think I mentioned this on yesterday's video, right, and then he messes up his shooting end or something like that, or his jump shot gets weird, his dribbling gets something aggravated that messes up his hand for the future. But he's recovered, if he's good, and the MRI's all clean, right, let him rest for maybe a game or so. And it's good that he'll be back potentially for day-to-day. So shout out to Scottie Barnes. Good news on that front. But the next thing we're taking a look at is Fred VanVleet speaks on the Toronto Raptors home court advantage. He had some interesting comments there. Some people are going at Fred VanVleet for these comments. I don't think he should necessarily be gone at for, but I'll read it out. Read the quote verbatim. Let me know what you guys think about this. But basically, Fred VanVleet on playing at home, where the Toronto Raptors are 23-13 this season, have won 7 in their and have recently won 7 in a row. He said, "When we play like trash, the crowd is trash, and vice versa. We've got to do our part and put together the right type of atmosphere. The crowd will follow suit, and it's a hard place to play when things are going good." So Fred VanVleet, saying that obviously, it's makes sense pretty well with any NBA team, right? When the team is playing bad, the crowd's energy is usually bad, but he's saying vice versa as well. So when the crowd's energy is negative, which To be fair, it definitely was for a good chunk there in January where the Raptors were hoping to turn things around, right? He said the energy's down. So, we got to pick up the atmosphere. They got to pick up their play so everything's rolling well. And when the team is playing well, when things are on wheels, right, the Toronto Raptors are a very hard destination to play in. I found it pretty interesting because I've mentioned it on these podcasts, and people are calling me a big Fred VanVleet fanboy on these podcasts because I'm not out here trashing him left, right, and center. As especially, midway through the season, a lot of people were throwing Fred VanVleet under the bus. But, right, like, Fred VanVleet, he's a guy that has taken a lot of crap from Toronto Raptors fans. He's been praised to the masses when he's, went on that all-star run, that all-star tier at the beginning of last season, when he hit those big shots in the NBA Finals, the conference finals for us in our championship run. But, I don't think I've ever seen anyone as criticized as bad as Fred VanVleet, especially in that Sixers series where, he's our backup point guard, a key piece to that team, as we saw in the following series. But, he was bagged on then. He was bagged on for a big chunk of this year, last year's playoffs. I'm talking the Philly series in the second round when we had Kawhi Leonard. So Fred VanVleet kind of take a little bit of a shot there at the crowd. I think it kind of makes sense. But, it's on us as fans to keep the energy high, to give the players the best chance. We're the sixth man out there on the court. The Orlando Magic have number 6 retired on their team because, it's for the fans, the sixth man out there. But the Raptors do have to be more consistent. They're expecting everything to be all jolly from the fan base. But we're passionate fans. It's just how it is. But I found that pretty funny quote there from Fred VanVleet. But the next thing we're taking a look at is a controversial OG Anunoby trade proposal with the Detroit Pistons. And this is something I found very interesting because no matter who you talk to, I brought up to a couple of my friends as well. No one had the same kind of alignment in terms of how they were feeling regarding this trade, and it sparked a lot of discussions. Obviously, this isn't a reported trade, a rumor trade, or anything like that. It's just a trade proposal made by Detroit Pistons blog guys. So don't take this as a report as anything that could potentially go down, or I guess it could potentially go down, but it's something that's being reported. But it's just a trade idea that I found as a nice, interesting thought experiment. As the offseason, it's kind of close. I don't know. We still have a lot of play to play, but trade proposals are always fun. But basically, this Pistons reporter whipped up the trade machine and came up with this idea, especially if the Pistons were to get the second overall pick. But the Raptors kept Marvin Bagley and the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. And the Detroit Pistons get OG Anunoby and our 2023 first for this year, which will likely be either mid-lottery or just mid-first round. So I looked at this and, I'm not big, even at the trade deadline. I wasn't big on trading OG Anunoby, even if I thought it would happen. But the number 2 pick in this draft, and I know the Pistons would never trade it if it was the number 1 pick. Victor Wembanyama is generational and all that. But Scoot Henderson, who is a player a lot of Raptors fans sort of wanted, when the Raptors are really struggling for a large chunk of the season. Right, Brandon Miller's a guy that's climbed up the draft boards there. I found it. Those are 2 guys that could have a superstar potential, right? You never know. It's always kind of a flyer. It's always, I want to call it a crapshoot, but you never really know what you're going to get out of those top picks. But the Raptors hit on their top pick a couple years ago in Scottie Barnes, and having another top 5 pick that fits the younger timeline is going to be cheaper, as we have to pay a lot of Toronto Raptors. Gary's a free agent, Pirtle's a free agent, Fred's a free agent. We're going to have to pay a lot of dudes if we want to bring them back on the roster. Getting off of OG salary for a rookie scale deal could be a nice cap move long term. Obviously, Bagley has a little bit of a longer contract. He's not a dude I'm that intrigued with. If you look at sort of his numbers, nothing horrible by any means. Those are OG Anunoby stats. Marvin Bagley's averaging 11 points per game, 7 rebounds, but is not the highest caliber of player, especially on the defensive end. But I don't know. A top 2 pick there. I guess everyone knows that has watched this channel for a very long time that I am not the draft insight guy that is following the NCAA left, right, and center. Even though I do like to watch March Madness, it's Scoot Henderson does seem like a fun guy that can slash. His playmaking is something that has been questioned, and 3-point shooting as two areas that need to be improved for Scoot Henderson to be a definitive number 2 pick in this year's draft. But I don't know. I'm kind of rambling on this because my brain kind of goes in both places. Obviously, I'm an OG stan and stuff, but let me know what you guys think about that potential OG Anunoby for a second overall pick deal. We'd also be giving up our first round pick in this draft, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But the final thing we're taking a look at is probably the juiciest little bit of noise, not directly involving the Toronto Raptors, but definitely a conference rival, a division rival. Star player made some cryptic comments as Jaylen Brown had some words and had some reports come out today. Essentially that, I don't know. One question about his future with the Boston Celtics. I don't know. As long as I'm needed, it's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time. I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense. But I will stay where I'm wanted. I will stay where I'm needed and treated correctly. So that's his comments regarding the Celtics. And a report also came out when the Kevin Durant trade news, this trade deadline was revealed. He went on a three-way call with Jason Tatum and Brad Stevens, questioning about his future with the Boston Celtics, because obviously there was a bunch of rumors regarding Jaylen Brown potentially getting traded for Kevin Durant this summer, and Jason Tatum's good buddies with KD and all that. So, could Jaylen Brown be a little bit salty that his name was being thrown out in all these KD conversations? Who really knows? He had some interesting comments regarding the city, and all the racial tension there with Boston. So it's his future in Boston might be not as solidified as one would expect for a top team in the Eastern Conference that has been a top team since he's really been on in that organization. So let me know what you guys think about Jaylen Brown. He's a guy that I know a lot of Raptors fans want in Toronto, right? Whenever any Jaylen Brown trade rumors come up, I see at least 2 or 3 comments in our comment section saying, hey, get Jaylen Brown on the Raptors. But I don't know. Do you think he'll actually move on from the Celtics anytime soon? Let me know about that in the comment section below. But you guys are best to make this far. Subscribe to the Raptors Digest if you haven't already. Definitely check out the link down below if you made it this far and you're interested in cars. The Queensway Automotive Group. Check out that link. But you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.